Hello, YouTube. This is the Galley La Podcast, and today we are going to be reviewing One Piece Chapter 1036. I hope everybody had a Merry Christmas, and New Year's is right around the corner. So, this week we're basically starting it off where King got his wing chopped off, basically, from Zoro, and you see Zoro as the victor. So, G-Boss, what are your initial thoughts on this?
I when I first read the previous chapter, I completely missed that that Zoro had cut off King's wing. So it's kind of cool because it also looks like he cut through his sword, and it looks like his sword he coated it in hockey too. So it makes sense because Zoro is coating his in Conquerors, so that would be just plain armament. And we didn't bring it up really last week, but I thought that it was interesting that when Zoro was saying about King's big fire dragon attack, he was saying that it was like magma. So I know people have started running with that about that Zoro's gonna take out Akainu now because he can cut through that. But I don't think that that's gonna happen. But it is interesting because it kind of shows how he adopted Kinemon's technique of cutting through fire, and now he can cut through magma. So
Yeah, and there's a possibility where Sanji might get to that level of heat, or maybe he did just unlock it too.
yeah, that's true.
So that could be a Lunarian link potentially there too. But we see some more good characterization with King and Kaido. We're basically promising he's not going to lose. I kind of wish. I like this a lot. I just kind of wish we were shown more of this relationship between him and Kaido throughout the arc, rather than just kind of piling it in all at once kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But it's still pretty good, and then we get the connection that with Kaido potentially being Joyboy, and he's kind of laughing at the idea that King thinks that. So they definitely seem a lot different in terms of characters, though, in terms of their personalities now versus back then.
Mm-hmm. And this kind of goes back to Kaido knowing about Joyboy. So originally when he mentioned that when he was knocking Luffy off the roof, he said, so you can't be Joyboy too either. So it looks like he thought that he could have been Joyboy at some point. Just how I'm reading this.
Yeah. And probably, so either Kaido knew about it and told King, or maybe King has some knowledge about Joyboy because he's an ancient race too, with a distinct heritage and Skypian links also. So there's definitely a lot of potential connections that could have led to this idea of Joyboy. So we're definitely getting more and more into it, and at the end of the chapter, Kaido was smiling fighting Luffy too. So it's kind of like a callback to this too at the end of the chapter. So yeah, and then we see Zoro basically victorious. He bounces back with that air move, and one of the Marys sees it, and then we come back to CP0, where he's shocked about King losing, but he's like, well, then again, we still have Big Mom and Kaido on the board, basically.
Yeah, so that kind of puts a lot of emphasis on how strong those two are. Like, oh yeah, all their commanders and like high-ranking subordinates are gone, but as long as those two are there, we're basically fine. Or
yeah.
Yeah. Because we're still seeing like Big Mom fighting Law and Kid right now, but she has like you see it earlier and you see it later in the chapter. She kind of has like the flaming hair like she did in Whole Cake. Yeah.
Yeah, because I think last time we saw them, she really upgraded her homies big time, and it looks like she has even more homies with all the metal. So I guess she's turning Kid's metal against them now, which is kind of interesting there too. So they're still on the board, and CP0, that's their main focus, and they're still moving in with the idea of potentially like the Straw Hats are probably gonna lose, but they were like, okay, well it's fine, like as long as they're just killing each other, like in the beginning. And then like right before when we see the next part with CP0, we basically have another recap with Yamato and Momo. Nothing really much there in terms of that. It was just kind of like an update with the explosions and capital.
Yeah, I don't know why Oda would include this page, because it just seems kind of like recap of like saying, oh, Onigashima's almost there, and the fire spirit's going down toward the gunpowder and everything. It's like, well, we kind of know this already, everyone who's keeping up to date. But I don't know, it's I underestimate, because I've been watching some people who have been kind of reading One Piece for the first time, and like when they got to the Reverie, they were like, I am so glad there are all these like reintroductions for these characters, because I completely forgot about them.
Yeah, that's true.
And then
I think with us, we like review it so much and we talk about it so much, like that's our recap,
It's like you forgot about Rebecca already. You just read that like a couple weeks ago. Although Rebecca is kind of forgettable.
That's true. And so after that recap, we get back to the numbers, basically. And the numbers, helping out Yamato again, breaking through the door to get to the weapons. And so they seem to be on, Fuga at least seems to be on good terms with Yamato. And sorry, go.
No, I'm kind of surprised that, because the numbers aren't really, it doesn't seem like they have much intelligence, but they still recognize Yamato and or at least this one's allies with her. So I don't know, like there might be a little bit of a backstory for that, but I'm kind of interested in that. And I also kind of find it funny that Yamato said, I don't have time to fight him or anything, because Oda just put out at the latest Jump Festa. Every year he kind of does a statement. Like last year's, he was saying something about Shanks making his move or whatever, and then we got the announcement of Film Red. So I think that's what it was talking about. But in this year's Jump Festa, he talked about he was surprised that Wano wasn't over already. So
yeah,
I think that was kind of funny that Yamato's like, I don't have time to fight this. We got to get toward the end.
Exactly. Yeah, we need to move along, and that's where we get to Usopp, and who's it's kind of a good moment. It's good to see him back. It kind of felt like he's been forgotten, because he's obviously one of Oda's favorites, and now he's kind of actually getting some screen time. And I do like how they make the mention he's worth 200 million, which is cool. I like kind of the connection to the real world, and then when he's recognized as God, Usopp too. And so later on by I'm blanking on his name, which is terrible, but Izo, there you go. And really, any panels with Kinemon and Kiku at this point just piss me off, to be perfectly frank. Just like, you're taking up space. Let's just focus on the other stuff, like, you should be dead, you're not dead. But they do serve as good foilers for Usopp's character development, which is kind of nice, where he's telling them that you need to live, basically, and he's kind of like combating their sense of honor, even though he kind of wants to be a brave, honorable person later on in his life. So you have that dynamic breaking down there. Yeah,
and I think this scene was my favorite of the chapter because of Usopp. And what he's saying makes sense. Like, you don't have to die to make a use of your life. You have to keep on living. And it ties perfectly into his character. Like, he says, like, I don't care if I have to run or everything as long as I live. Because he has stuff to do, and they have stuff to do supposedly after this raid. So
And Izo could kind of be seen as the type of sniper. I just kind of realized that. So it's
Exactly.
like the Whitebeard sniper saving, the Straw Hat sniper. So Izo Usopp level confirmed. And then and then we get to the third floor. The most epic fight still going on. It deserves more screen time rather than Kiku and Kinemon.
of Raizo versus Fukurokuju, and
There you go.
it's almost as good as Naruto versus Sasuke in the final Battle of the End fight.
At least these guys have good characters and proper development, so they have that going for them over Naruto and Sasuke. But I think
it's brutal.
Yeah. So now they're still going on there. They're still fighting, and then we move on to Kamurasaki and Orochi. So I think probably next chapter we're going to see Denjiro come into play here, potentially, because this is, this plot line can't go on forever, basically. He keeps on teasing this out. And I think there's a minor chance that the act ends with the next chapter, basically, So we'll see what happens after that,
Yeah. I mean,
because obviously she's here for a reason.
Yeah. I mean, I think that either her or Denjiro are gonna kill Orochi. And I don't know, it's kind of weird because Orochi just wanted to get out of there, and now he's just like there with Kamurasaki. And yeah. Well, it kind of says he's waiting for Kurokuju, but yeah, it's weird. But I think, do you think that it would be Denjiro or Kamurasaki or Hiyori or whatever you want to call her that's gonna take him out? I could see both. Like, it's a 50-50 shot.
Yeah, I could see her doing it, and if she kind of messes up, and then Denjiro saves her.
Yeah, if only
I can see something like that.
Yeah, if only Denjiro would show up. Like, he's had like no screen time, like even less so than like Raizo.
Yeah, and what makes sense, Raizo is amazing, but I think when it comes to I think Oda's been teasing this one out because it's probably going to be happening soon.
Mm-hmm.
Since everything else, Zoro Sanji fights are resolved, and obviously Big Mom and Kaido are going to fight, and then we also, good transition here, we have Drake and Appu's fights resolved now too. So basically, there's only 2 major fights left.
The
war right now. So.
Yeah, I'm kind of disappointed by how this went because it was kind of off screen. And when Oda kind of off-screen things, he gives it some more time. But I feel like this whole Appu and Drake versus CP0 just started, like, what was it, like 1 or 2 chapters ago or something? Mm-hmm. But it was, like, really short that this was... that this resolved. Like, Appu's running away from CP0. And he left Drake, which is completely in character for Appu. But.
Yeah, they're in character, and I don't know. So my idea that there's the possibility that Appu is a triple agent for Blackbeard, I think it gained a little bit more traction because Appu wasn't taken out, basically. He's still moving. Like, Oda has a purpose for him, because we don't really know what his purpose is. He says he wants to help take down the Yonko, basically, but obviously he can't do that by himself. So he's just trying to stay alive to get done whatever his true objective is at this point. Because it is weird. Why would he want to betray Kaido? Like, he's like the winner right now, So it doesn't really make sense. And he basically just wants to be the last one standing, but why does he want to be the last one standing potentially? And then he leaves Drake, and I'm realizing Drake's just got in
he's
L
kind of,
after L.
He's like Smoker, who hasn't shown up for the longest time, and he just keeps getting fodderized.
Yeah, so there's that, and so he hasn't defeated one person. I guess his only kind of W was getting this high up into Kaido's pirate crew, but he didn't do anything with that capital.
Mm-hmm.
It's like he had all this. He's like, yeah, I'm a high-ranking member. He wasn't even able to take down anyone, really. So
he took
I
down
don't
one
think
of the
he even have a
numbers.
name. Oh, okay, yes,
Yeah.
you're right. How can I forget about that? So, and then, well, so I think he only had one named attack. We saw his hybrid form, but we saw literally nothing about him. Like, did he have 6 powers, techniques, any special type of hockey? You don't know why he's doing what he's doing.
I mean,
and then he just, yeah, sorry.
I mean, since he's a member of the Toby Roppo, who are also kind of taken out easily, it makes sense.
So, I would say, like, Ulti was portrayed really well, very impressive, looks great, you know. She got better portrayal than a Supernova, which is crazy, you know, to think about. And
Yeah.
I would say even Who's Who also, he had better portrayal as well.
Yeah.
So, Drake, you know, I thought I had huge expectations ever since I saw the time skip for what he was doing, you know. I thought he was interesting, being a former Marine. Then he turns out to be part of Sword, and he infiltrated Kaido's crew. Like there's so much you could do with that character, and then he just got put in the extras category in terms of the Supernova. Like he didn't really accomplish anything. You know, Killer got better portrayal. I'd say even Hawkins got better portrayal.
Yeah.
Than Drake.
Yeah, all the Drake fans are not happy, I think.
Yeah, all 4 of them. You know, it's crazy. And I think when it comes to CP0, like, I don't even hate Drake. It's just, like, he hasn't done anything exciting to warrant a huge fan base. And I think it's, like, a great representation of, like, let's say, CP0, you know? Like, CP0 is, like, doing really good shit right now. Like, they look crazy powerful. And definitely Rook and Robin wouldn't have stood a chance, basically, you know, if they went up against them, because it looks like the guy with the hat and the scarf, like, high-low diffed Drake, roughly.
Oh, yeah.
He doesn't even look that scratched up.
I mean, he has a couple scratches, but, like, no, he took out Drake easily. But, yeah, I mean, I think we're going to see more of Drake just because he's a part of Sword. But, yeah, it is kind of disappointing that it's kind of like he was taken out before the number, because we see like the number being taken out and Drake's already on the ground.
Yes.
So
exactly.
Hopefully the anime will expand on this, because they've expanded on a couple things that kind of make this better.
Yeah, because I want to see their powers. I assume they all have broken devil fruits. Just kind of like they made sure CP9 all got fruits, for example. So
yeah.
Obviously these guys have really powerful fruits as well. And so I'm really, and probably some crazy hockey to top it all off. And so they have, and then they basically have a conversation. Have you captured Nico Robin? Not yet. If it came up, you need to get out of the castle quickly. What are you saying? The All-Stars have been wiped out. So, you know, they're saying, like, yeah, the odds are low, but they need to be ready if they somehow pull off an upset. But the question is, ready for what? And maybe either kill them all or capture them all, kind of thing. Maybe, like, or, like, their main priority is going to be, like, either taking the Poneglyph or taking the Yonko, basically.
Yeah, because Lucci's on his way there.
Yes. And there could be a lot more, for all we know, too.
Yeah. And then this next part, where it's the CP0 agent is saying that, like, even if their odds are 1,000,000 to 1, they it could be an upset, and then the fate of a new era will be decided on this island in the next couple minutes, and news that big would exacerbate everything that's happening around the world. So it looks like there's a lot going on. Like this, the conclusion of this raid, along with like the abolishment of the warlords, and supposedly they use like the special science groups, the SSGs, new technology against the warlords. So like with all these new different things, the new powers, there's going to be a big shift after this.
Yes, and that's why they focus on the first crewmates.
Yeah.
And Sanji there, which is kind of implied an equal status on the ship as Zoro.
Yeah, because we have Killer and Beppo, who are the right hands of Law and Kid, and then we have Zoro and Sanji. So Oda knows what he's doing. He's putting them on an even playing field.
Sure. The two wings and all that, and I think it is interesting on a power scaling level, because people say, oh, well, Drake was injured. Okay, cool, but he's a zone, and everybody keeps on saying zones can take more damage, so it's not really even a factor, to be perfectly frank.
Yeah.
At this point, you know.
I actually don't ever remember that being said in the story, but it might have been said so long ago that I don't remember.
So Law sided with Sanji fighting page 1.
Oh,
Those ancient zones are tough. Yeah, so, and he's an ancient zone, and he's still, like, basically taking those hits, essentially. And so, Lucci, I'd say, is about equal, or maybe even higher than the Blue Scarf guy. That puts Lucci over, roughly, I'd say, all the supernovas, except kind of the main 3, if I had to guess, in terms of power. And I'd say he's probably around Zoro Sanji. If they just made such short work of the supernovas, basically.
Yeah. I would
because
think so.
Zoro wasn't able to do this to Appu, for example, like to get him to the runaway like that, and it kind of looked like Drake was close to the same power level as Appu too. Like this guy made short work; it was nothing, you know. And so it is interesting to see the power scaling at work here in that respect, because that was like a domination thing, and then we basically move on to going back to that theme. You see the wings of the Pirate King, you see the first mates, and then you see Law and Kid, and then Kaido, and this is kind of like a reaffirmation. These are the only 2 fights left, is Big Mom and Kaido's fights, which means the Kamurasaki thing, that's probably going to get resolved, and same with the Kage fight. They're both going to get resolved before these final 2 fights, because I think that's was the point of the recap of the chapter. Like, this is all that's going on at this point, you know?
Yeah, and I think, I'm not sure if I said it last time, but I think this will be done at, like, all of Wano will be done at least by May. And maybe, like, Kaido will be taken down by, like, February, March, around that time. But yeah, it's interesting, just looking at like Luffy's progression just in this fight alone, because he's going one-on-one with Kaido now. Yeah. And even though Kaido, I saw a Reddit post that like listed all of like the stuff Kaido's tanked for this whole raid, and it's impressive. But yeah, Luffy's keeping up with him now. He's knocking him down, and it's interesting that they're laughing at this point, though, in terms of fight. So do you think that there's anything behind that, or just kind of showing parallels? Because I also saw something that was saying, like, in all of Luffy's like serious fights, he never really smiles. Like against Lucci, against Katakuri, Crocodile, Eneru, like he never really smiles during his fights. So,
well, I think I'd say these 2 characters are the closest to being the Joyboy, if you will, and I think that's where the smiling's coming in, basically, because Luffy's kind of fully embracing that title, I think, at this point, you know. And he's just a little bit away of being the Pirate King too, you know, and Laugh Tale and all that. So he's definitely getting to that point pretty soon. And I think Kaido's also happy he has a fight, like a great fight, you know. So
that's true.
Yeah. So I basically think, final thoughts here, I think there's a good shot this act ends, and Act 4 is going to be the Yonko fights, and then Act 5 maybe the Marines and all that, or recap ending. And so it's obviously the Kamurasaki and the Kage fight, they're not more important than Sanji and Zoro. The only way they would be more important to be resolved later, if they were there just to simply close the act, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of how I see it. It was a good chapter, though. I liked it.
Yeah.
It progressed the story along in an interesting way.
Mm-hmm. I will say one more thing before we close off. In Oda's Jump Festa statement, he also said to specifically keep an eye on Luffy in this coming year. So I thought that was kind of interesting, and maybe because you were saying about this smiling and the Joyboy thing, maybe that's what he was talking about. Like keep an eye out for that.
Yeah.
Because I think it would be. Yeah, I had never really put the Joyboy thing together. Like these are two people who could potentially have been Joyboy.
Yeah.
And we don't even really know what that means, but
it's kind of like Luffy's final metamorphosis a little bit too, I think. You know, and Sanji's metamorphosis and Luffy's, in a way, they're just kind of going into the next stage. You know?
Yeah, and then kind of with Zoro too in this chapter. Like after he beat King, he said, "I'll become the king of hell." So he's kind of taking that role too. Like they're upping their things. So
yeah, and probably just one arc away roughly till he becomes the Pirate King after this arc. You know.
Yeah. So again, Oda said he was going to be done with Wano. He thought he was going to be done with Wano at this point. So I would add another 5 years onto this point. So
yeah. I was thinking mainly like just probably Elbap's going to be the last thing / meeting Shanks, and then we start the whole Laugh-Tell thing basically. But we'll see how that goes, and so we'll probably get some more videos out to you guys later on this week, since there's going to be a lag in One Piece content with the new chapters and everything. So we'll definitely get some content, probably like a year in review video we're thinking about too. So just leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed the content, and we'll see you guys next week. Have a happy new year. Be safe. See ya.
Bye.